The Velrath Dominion had watched Earth for exactly 47 of their standard cycles before they decided to make contact. Their observation stations, hidden behind the gas giant humans called Jupiter, had recorded everything. They watched humans split the atom. They watched humans build machines that could think. They watched humans send fragile metal containers beyond their own atmosphere, celebrating each small step as if they had conquered the universe itself. Commander Thyrol stood before the great viewing screen aboard the diplomatic vessel Eternal Wisdom, her forearms folded in the traditional posture of patient superiority. Her scales, deep blue like the oceans of her home world. "They are still using chemical propulsion," she said, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones of the Velrath language. "Their fastest ships would take generations to reach even their nearest neighboring star." Her second-in-command, a younger male named Vorix, stepped forward. His scales were lighter, almost silver, marking him as one of the Velrath born during the long migration between galaxies 3,000 cycles ago. "The Council believes they are ready for introduction into the galactic community," Vorix said. "They have demonstrated sufficient social cohesion to warrant first contact protocols." Thyrol made a sound that humans might have interpreted as laughter, though it carried no warmth. Social cohesion? They have fought 2 planetary wars in the last century alone. They have weapons pointed at each other even now as we speak. As did we, Commander. As did the Kethrani. As did every species before they learned they were not alone. This was true, and Thyrol could not argue against it. The discovery of other intelligent life had a way of unifying species. Suddenly, the differences between nations, between ideologies, between colors and creeds seemed small when compared to the vast gulf between species. "Very well," Thyrol said. "We will proceed with the standard introduction package. Prepare the technology transfer documentation." The standard introduction package was exactly that. Standard. Every new species received the same carefully measured dose of advanced technology. Fusion power, clean and nearly limitless. Faster-than-light communication, allowing instant contact across light years. Basic medical technology that could extend lifespans by decades. And most importantly, the theoretical frameworks that would allow the new species to begin developing their own faster-than-light travel within a few centuries. The Velrath had perfected this process over millions of years. They knew exactly how much to give and how quickly to give it. Too much, too fast, and a species might destroy itself with power it did not understand. Too little, and they might feel patronized, might grow resentful, might become a problem later. The package given to Earth was designed to bring humans up to basic interstellar capability within approximately 300 standard years. This was the timeline the Velrath had calculated based on human cognitive patterns, their scientific methodology, and their social structures. 300 years was actually quite fast by galactic standards. The Velrath themselves had taken nearly 1,000 years after first contact to develop independent, faster-than-light travel. The humans, the Velrath believed, were clever. Not as clever as the Velrath, of course. No species was as clever as the Velrath, but clever enough to eventually take their place as junior members of the galactic community. First contact happened on a Tuesday in late April. The humans had a habit of naming their days, organizing time into small boxes that they could manage and understand. The Velrath found this charming in a primitive sort of way. The diplomatic vessel Eternal Wisdom descended through Earth's atmosphere and landed in a desert region the humans called Nevada. The location had been chosen carefully. It was remote enough to prevent widespread panic, but accessible enough to allow human leadership to arrive quickly. Thyrol was the first Velrath to set foot on human soil. She stepped down the landing ramp with the dignity befitting a representative of the oldest civilization in the known galaxy. Behind her came Vorix and a team of scientists and diplomats, all trained in the delicate art of first contact. The humans were waiting. They had military vehicles arranged in a wide circle around the landing site, weapons that Thyrol knew were pointed at her ship. This was expected. This was, in fact, exactly what the psychological profiles had predicted. A single human stepped forward from the group. He was tall for his species, with grey hair and a face lined by years and stress. He wore a uniform covered in symbols that Tyrrell had learned to recognize as markers of authority. "I am General Marcus Webb," the human said. "On behalf of the United States of America and the United Nations of Earth, I welcome you to our planet." Tyrrell inclined her head in the human gesture of greeting. "I am Commander Tyrrell of the Velrath Dominion. We come in peace, as your people say. We come to welcome humanity into the community of intelligent species that spans this galaxy and others." The negotiations that followed lasted for months. Humans, Tyrrell learned, were exhausting negotiators. They questioned everything. They demanded explanations for every gift, every technology, every piece of information. They wanted to understand not just what they were being given, but why they were being given it, and what the Velrath expected in return. "There is no hidden cost," Tyrrell explained for what felt like the 100th time. "The galactic community benefits when new species join. You will contribute your own unique perspectives, your own innovations, your own art and culture. This is payment enough." The human negotiator, a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, who had been appointed as Earth's primary diplomatic contact, did not look convinced. "In our history," she said, "when a more advanced civilization offers gifts to a less advanced one, there are always strings attached." "We are not human," Tyrrell said. "Our history is not your history. We learned long ago that exploitation of new species only breeds resentment and rebellion. It is far more efficient to raise you up as equals over time." "Over time," Dr. Chen repeated. "Yes, about that. Your timeline suggests 300 years before we achieve faster-than-light travel. That seems quite specific. It is based on careful analysis of your species' capabilities, your mathematics, your engineering, your manufacturing capacity. 300 years is our most optimistic projection." Dr. Potter Fora. Chen smiled. It was a smile that Tyrrell did not quite know how to interpret. "We'll see about that," she said. The technology transfer was completed in the 6th month. Humanity received detailed specifications for fusion reactors, plans for faster-than-light communication arrays, medical technologies that would revolutionize human healthcare, and most importantly, the theoretical frameworks underlying faster-than-light travel itself. The Velrath did not give humans the actual plans for FTL drives. That was not how things were done. New species were expected to develop their own solutions based on the theoretical principles provided. This was partly a test to ensure the species truly understood the underlying physics. It was also a safety measure. A species that had to develop the technology themselves would understand it deeply enough to use it responsibly. Tyrrell returned to the observation station behind Jupiter to await the results. Her report to the Council was standard. Successful first contact. Technology transfer complete. Estimated integration timeline of 300 standard years. What happened next was not standard. 18 months after the technology transfer, Tyrrell received an urgent communication from the listening post monitoring Earth's transmissions. "Commander," the officer said, his scales pale with what looked like shock, "you need to see this." The transmission was a public broadcast, what humans called a news report. A human female was standing in front of a large industrial facility, speaking into a recording device. "We are here at the Prometheus Research Facility in Switzerland, where scientists have just announced a breakthrough that experts are calling the most significant achievement in human history." Using the theoretical frameworks provided by the Velrath Dominion, human researchers have successfully constructed and tested a working prototype faster than the light communication array. That is not possible. The timeline projected at minimum 50 years for communication technology alone. "There's more, Commander," the officer said. "Keep watching," the broadcast continued. But that's not all. In a joint announcement with facilities in China, India, and the United States, researchers have also confirmed the successful operation of the first human-built fusion reactor, producing sustained energy output at commercial levels. And perhaps most remarkably, a team at MIT has published preliminary designs for what they claim is a viable faster-than-light propulsion system, based on their own modifications to Velrath theoretical principles. The broadcast showed images, humans in white coats gathered around machines, celebrating, embracing, crying with joy. It showed diagrams of the propulsion system, mathematics that Tyrell recognized as modifications of the frameworks her people had provided. 18 months, Tyrell said quietly. 18 months, and they are already publishing drive designs. The designs are crude, Vorik said, trying to sound reassuring. Surely they cannot actually build such a thing. But Tyrell was no longer listening. She was watching the broadcast, watching the humans celebrate, watching them pore over the designs with an intensity she had never seen in any species before. "We made a miscalculation," she said finally, "a serious miscalculation. On Earth, in a bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a gathering of the world's most brilliant scientists. The room was crowded with people from every nation, every background, every field of study. They had come together for one purpose, to prove that humanity was not the slow learner the Velrath assumed. When the Velrath gave us their technology, Dr. Public, Chen said, they gave it to us in pieces. They expected us to study each piece separately, to understand it gradually, to follow the path they had laid out for us. They did not expect us to do what humans have always done." She pressed a button, and the screen behind her filled with images, humans throughout history, taking apart machines, studying components, rebuilding and improving. They did not expect us to take everything apart and put it back together our own way. A man in the front row raised his hand. He was Dr. James Okonkwo, the Nigerian physicist who had led the fusion reactor team. The Velrath gave us fusion technology that they expected would take us decades to implement. They did not understand that we have been working on fusion for almost a century already. Their frameworks did not teach us something new. They showed us what we were doing wrong. Another scientist stood, Dr. Meilin, head of the MIT propulsion team. The theoretical frameworks for FTL travel were presented as a starting point. The Velrath expected us to spend centuries exploring the implications, but we recognized the mathematics immediately. It is an extension of principles we have been developing independently. String theory, quantum field theory. We were not starting from zero. We were filling in gaps. Dr. Rollheimen, Chen nodded. The Velrath made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They measured our technology and concluded we were primitive. They saw our internal conflicts and concluded we were divided. But they failed to understand the one thing that truly defines our species. She paused, looking around the room at the assembled minds. "We are impatient," she said. "We have been looking at the stars for our entire existence, dreaming of reaching them. We have been told all our lives that faster-than-light travel is impossible, and we refuse to accept it. When the Velrath arrived and told us that it was possible, that all we needed was 300 years of work." She smiled that smile again, the one that Tyrell had not known how to interpret. "We decided 300 years was too long to wait." The room erupted in applause. Scientists embraced each other, laughing and crying. They had done what the Velrath had thought impossible. They had taken alien technology and made it their own in less than 2 years. But Dr. Chen did not celebrate. She stood quietly, looking at the screen displaying the FTL drive designs, thinking about what came next. The Velrath had given humanity these technologies expecting to manage human development for the next 3 centuries. They had expected to guide humanity, to shape humanity, to integrate humanity into the galactic community on their own terms. What would they do when they realized humanity had other plans? Commander Thyral requested an immediate audience with the Velrath High Council. This was unusual enough that the council members gathered within hours, their ancient forms arrayed in the traditional circle of deliberation. "You have seen the human broadcasts," Thyral began. "You know what they have accomplished." The eldest council member, a being so old that her scales had faded to white, spoke first. "We have seen, we do not understand. Our projections have never been so wrong. With respect, Elder, our projections have never been tested against a species like humanity. Explain." Thyral called up the data she had compiled since the broadcast began. We assessed humanity based on their technological development. We saw chemical rockets and concluded they were behind. We saw nuclear weapons and concluded they were dangerous but primitive. We saw their internal conflicts and concluded they were divided. All of these assessments were accurate, but they missed something critical. She displayed images from human history, the Industrial Revolution, the space race, the development of computers, the mapping of the human genome. Humans do not develop technology gradually. They develop it in explosive bursts. They had agriculture for thousands of years before anything changed. Then, in the span of 2 centuries, they went from horse-drawn carts to nuclear power, from written letters to global instant communication, from believing their planet was the center of the universe to walking on their moon. The council members shifted uncomfortably. This was not how things were supposed to work. They are an anomaly, Thyrol continued. Most species develop in predictable patterns. Humans do not. They are capable of stagnating for generations, then advancing more in a single decade than other species advance in centuries. And there is one more thing. She paused, gathering her courage. What she was about to say would not be well received. They reverse engineer everything. They do not simply learn from what we give them. They take it apart. They understand it at a fundamental level, and then they improve upon it. The eldest council member's scales darkened with concern. You are saying they will soon surpass the technologies we provided. I am saying they may already have. The council chamber fell silent. For millions of years, the Velrath had been the most advanced civilization in the known universe. They had guided dozens of species into the galactic community. They had never, in all that time, encountered a species that might threaten their position. What do you recommend, Commander? The eldest asked. Thyrol had thought long and hard about this question. The traditional response would be to contain humanity, to limit their access to technology, to slow their development through diplomatic pressure, or if necessary, force. But she had studied humans. She had watched them, and she knew that containment would not work. We must approach them as equals, she said. Not in 300 years now. We must establish full diplomatic relations, full trade agreements, full technology sharing. We must make them our partners rather than our students. This is unprecedented, another council member protested. No species has ever been elevated so quickly. No species has ever deserved elevation so quickly, Thyrol replied. And consider the alternative. If we try to contain them and fail, which I believe we will have made an enemy of the most rapidly advancing species we have ever encountered. Is that truly what you want? The council deliberated for 3 standard cycles. In the end, they approved Thyrol's recommendation. Though not unanimously, the Velrath would offer humanity full partnership in the galactic community, effective immediately. When Thyrol transmitted the offer to Earth, she received a response within hours. It was from Dr. Sarah Chen. The people of Earth are pleased to accept full partnership with the galactic community. We look forward to a long and productive relationship with the Velrath Dominion and all the species of the galaxy. However, we must inform you that in the time since your observation satellites last updated their records, we have completed construction of our first faster-than-light vessel. We call it the Hope. It launched this morning. Thyrol read the message 3 times before she believed it. 18 months. In 18 months, humanity had not only understood alien technology, they had built upon it. They had modified it. They had created their own faster-than-light drive, one that did not appear in any Velrath database, and they had launched a ship. Where is it going? Thyrol asked the officer monitoring human transmissions. The officer checked her instruments. When she looked up, her scales were pale. Alpha Centauri, she said. They are going to the nearest star, and based on the drive signatures we're detecting, she hesitated. Speak, Thyrol commanded. Based on the drive signatures, Commander, they will arrive before any Velrath ship could intercept them. Their drive is faster than ours. Thyrol stood perfectly still for a long moment. Then, slowly, she began to laugh. It was not the cold laugh of Velrath superiority. It was something else entirely. It was the laugh of someone who had just realized that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than she had ever imagined. "Send a message to the human vessel," she said. "Tell them congratulations, and ask them if they would be willing to share their designs with us." She paused, considering the irony of what she was about to say. "Tell them we are very interested in learning from them." The vessel Hope crossed the vast emptiness between Sol and Alpha Centauri in 17 days. The Velrath had calculated that their own fastest ships would require 23 days for the same journey. This meant that humans had not merely matched Velrath technology, they had exceeded it. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the Bridge of Hope, watching the stars blur and stretch through the forward view screen. She was a small woman with dark hair streaked with grey, a former NASA astronaut who had spent her career dreaming of this moment. Now that it was happening, she found herself struggling to breathe. "Captain," her pilot called out, "we're approaching the threshold, dropping out of FTL in 30 seconds. All hands, prepare for transition," Elena announced over the ship's intercom. "This is what we trained for. This is what humanity has waited for. Let's do it right." The blur of lights contracted, twisted, and then exploded into perfect clarity. Before them hung a binary star system, two suns dancing around each other in an eternal waltz, and orbiting those suns' planets, real planets orbiting real stars that were not the sun. Elena allowed herself one moment of pure wonder. Then she turned to her science officer. "Dr. Yamamoto, begin scanning. I want to know everything about this system within the hour." "Doctor." Kenji Yamamoto was already at his console, fingers flying over controls that were a mix of human design and reverse-engineered Velrath technology. "Captain, I'm reading something strange. There's a structure in orbit around the third planet. It's artificial." "Velrath?" "Negative. The design signatures don't match anything in their database. This is something else." Elena felt her pulse quicken. The Velrath had told humanity that dozens of species made up the galactic community, but the Velrath had also clearly expected to control humanity's introduction to those species. They had not expected humans to go exploring on their own. "Can you identify it?" Elena asked. "Trying now. It appears to be some kind of station, large, at least 3 kilometers in diameter. And Captain, there's movement. Ships are approaching." The view screen magnified, showing sleek vessels of unfamiliar design emerging from the station. They were not Velrath ships. The lines were different, more angular, almost crystalline. "Open a channel," Elena ordered. "All frequencies." Standard first contact protocols. The communication officer, Lieutenant David Park, worked his console. "Channel open, Captain." Broadcasting universal greeting package. By weighted. The ships continued to approach, forming a loose formation around Hope. Elena counted 12 of them, each roughly the same size as her own vessel. Then the view screen flickered, and a face appeared. It was not human. It was not Velrath. It was something entirely new. The being had a face like polished glass, with features that seemed to shift and flow even as Elena watched. Its eyes were dark pools that reflected the stars themselves. When it spoke, its voice was melodic, almost like singing. "Unknown vessel, you are in Kethrani space. Identify yourself and state your purpose." Elena stood tall. "I am Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Hope. We are explorers from the planet Earth, recently welcomed into the galactic community by the Velrath Dominion. We mean no intrusion. We are simply exploring." There was a pause. The being's face shifted, its features rearranging in what might have been surprise. "Earth, you are the new species, the ones the Velrath have been preparing for contact. The Velrath made first contact with us approximately 20 months ago. Yes, 20 months. The being paused again. "That is not possible. The Velrath's standard integration timeline for new species is measured in centuries. No species achieves independent FTL travel in 20 months. "With respect," Elena said, "we are not like other species." The transmission ended abruptly. Elena exchanged glances with her bridge crew. They had no way of knowing whether they had just made friends or enemies. 10 minutes later, the transmission resumed. The Kethrani's face had changed again, its features now arranged in what Elena hoped was a more welcoming expression. Earth Vessel Hope. You are invited to dock at Station Harmony. The Kethrani Collective wishes to speak with you directly. We have many questions. Elena accepted the invitation. She had little choice, really. Her ship was surrounded, and she had no idea whether her weapons could match the Kethrani vessels. Besides, making enemies was not why she was here. The docking procedure was smooth. The Kethrani station had been designed to accommodate vessels of many different configurations, and Hope slid into its berth with surprising ease. A delegation of Kethrani met them at the airlock. Their bodies were as strange as their faces, humanoid in basic shape, but composed of that same shifting, glass-like substance. They moved with a grace that made Elena think of dancers or martial artists. "I am First Voice Crystalline," the lead Kethrani said. "I speak for the collective in matters of diplomacy. Welcome to our space, Captain Rodriguez. Thank you for receiving us, First Voice. I apologize for entering your territory without permission. We are new to interstellar travel and still learning the protocols." Crystalline made a gesture that Elena could not interpret. "Your apology is unnecessary but appreciated. Please come. There is much we wish to discuss." They were led through corridors of light and crystal, past Kethrani who stopped their work to stare at the strange visitors. Elena noticed that many of them were communicating in ways she could not hear, their glass-like bodies pulsing with inner light. "Your technology interests us," Crystalline said as they walked. "Your vessel's drive systems are not of Velrath design, yet you have only had access to Velrath technology for 20 months. How is this possible?" Elena considered her answer carefully. Humans have a gift for understanding how things work. When the Velrath gave us the theoretical frameworks for FTL travel, we did not simply follow their instructions. We studied the principles underlying the technology. We found ways to improve upon it. You reverse-engineered their technology. Yes, and then you improved it. Yes. Crystalline stopped walking. The other Kethrani stopped as well, their bodies pulsing with that strange inner light. "This is unprecedented," Crystalline said. "In all the history of the galactic community, no species has ever improved upon Velrath technology within a generation of first contact. Most species require centuries to truly understand what they have been given. Some never truly understand at all." "Humans are impatient," Elena said, echoing the words Dr. Chen had used back on Earth. "We do not like waiting." They resumed walking, eventually arriving at a large chamber that seemed to serve as a meeting hall. The walls were transparent, offering a view of the binary suns and the planets orbiting them. "Please sit," Crystalline said, gesturing to chairs that seemed to grow from the floor. "Tell us about your people. Tell us about your world. Tell us how you came to be here, in this place, at this time." Elena sat and she began to talk. She told them about Earth, about humanity's long history of looking up at the stars and dreaming. She told them about the wars and the peace, the darkness and the light. She told them about the Velrath's arrival and humanity's determination to prove themselves worthy of the stars. And she told them about the thing that drove humans more than anything else: curiosity, the need to know, to understand, to explore. When she finished, Crystalline was silent for a long time. The other Kethrani pulsed with light, communicating in their silent way. "We have been part of the galactic community for over 50,000 of your years," Crystalline finally said. "In that time, we have watched the Velrath introduce many species to the stars. We have watched those species struggle, learn, grow, and eventually take their place among us. But we have never seen anything like this." The Kethrani paused, its features shifting. The Velrath believe they are the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. They have held this belief for millions of years, and in many ways, they are correct. Their technology is sophisticated, their knowledge is vast, their power is unmatched. But they have a weakness, Crystalline continued. They are patient. They think in centuries and millennia. They cannot conceive of a species that thinks in years and decades. that can take technology apart and rebuild it better within a single generation. You are saying we have an advantage they did not expect, Elena said. I am saying you have an advantage that could change everything. The Velrath have guided the development of the galactic community for longer than any of us can remember. They are benevolent rulers, for the most part, but they are still rulers. They set the pace of progress. They decide which species receive which technologies. They control the flow of information and knowledge throughout the galaxy. The Kethrani leaned forward, its dark eyes reflecting Elena's face. What happens when a species arises that cannot be controlled? What happens when that species learns faster than the Velrath can teach, innovates faster than the Velrath can regulate, and spreads across the galaxy faster than the Velrath can track? Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She had not thought of it in those terms. She had been so focused on proving humanity's worth, on earning their place among the stars, that she had not considered what that place might mean. Are you saying the Velrath might see us as a threat? She asked. I am saying that the galaxy is about to change in ways none of us can predict, and I am saying that the Kethrani Collective would very much like to be your friends. The conversation continued for hours. Elena learned that the Kethrani had their own complicated relationship with the Velrath. They respected the ancient species, but chafed under their subtle control. They had long wished for a counterbalance, a species that might challenge Velrath dominance without triggering open conflict. Humans, Crystalline believed, might be exactly what the galaxy needed. Before Elena left the station, Crystalline gave her a gift, a data crystal containing the complete technical specifications for Kethrani propulsion systems.
Our technology is different from the Velrath's, Crystalline explained.
We use different principles, different approaches. Study it, learn from it, and when you have improved upon it, as I suspect you will, share what you have learned with us. Elena took the crystal. This is incredibly generous. Why are you doing this? Because I have seen the future, Captain Rodriguez. Not literally, of course. We Kethrani do not have such abilities. But I have seen enough of history to recognize a turning point when I encounter one. Crystalline's features shifted into something that might have been a smile. Humanity is that turning point. The galaxy will never be the same. Hope returned to Earth carrying more than just the Kethrani data crystal. It carried news of a galaxy far more complex than the Velrath had revealed. It carried the promise of alliances that could reshape the balance of power. And it carried the growing suspicion that humanity's rapid advancement was not being viewed favorably by everyone. Dr. Sarah Chen was waiting when Elena's shuttle touched down at the Prometheus facility. The two women had never met in person, but they had communicated extensively during the development of the Hope mission. Captain Rodriguez, Dr. Ponce, Chen said, shaking Elena's hand. Welcome home. I trust your journey was eventful. That's one word for it, Elena replied. We need to talk. Privately. They retreated to a secure conference room deep within the facility. Elena told Dr. Ray Farder, Chen everything, the Kethrani, Crystalline's warnings, the data crystal, and its implications. Chen listened without interrupting. When Elena finished, she sat in silence for a long moment. This confirms what our intelligence analysts have suspected, she finally said. The Velrath did not expect us to advance this quickly. They are trying to figure out how to respond. Are we in danger? Not immediately. The Velrath are not violent by nature. They prefer subtlety, diplomacy, economic pressure. But if they decide that humanity poses a genuine threat to their position, they have options we cannot match. Then we need to move faster, Elena said. We need allies. We need technology. We need to establish ourselves as a power in this galaxy before the Velrath can decide what to do about us. Chen nodded slowly. That is exactly what we have been planning. But we have a problem. The Velrath are watching us closely now. Every ship we launch, every communication we send, every piece of technology we develop, they know about it. So we need to do things they don't expect.
Yes.
And fortunately, we have some ideas about how to do that. Over the following weeks, Elena was briefed on a dozen different projects that had been operating in secret since the Velrath first made contact. Teams of engineers and scientists had been working around the clock, not just to understand Velrath technology, but to create entirely new technologies that the Velrath had never conceived. One project had developed a communication system that operated on principles so different from Velrath technology that it was completely undetectable by their sensors. Another had created a method of FTL travel that left no drive signature at all, allowing ships to move through space without being tracked. The Velrath gave us technology based on their understanding of the universe, Dr. Chen explained. But their understanding is not the only one. Human physics, human mathematics, human engineering. These have developed along different paths. We see things they do not see. We ask questions they do not think to ask. And we build things they never imagined, Elena added. Exactly. The most ambitious project was codenamed Prometheus, like the facility that housed it. It was an attempt to create something the Velrath had never achieved, a form of FTL travel that could cross not just interstellar distances, but intergalactic ones. The Velrath have explored most of this galaxy, Dr. Chen said, showing Elena the project files. They have outposts in several others. But travel between galaxies is still slow and difficult, even for them. It takes years to cross the void between spiraling star islands. If we could reduce that to weeks or days, we would have access to resources and territories they cannot easily reach, Elena finished. We could establish ourselves beyond their influence. It's still theoretical, Dr. Chen admitted, but we're close, very close. Elena thought about Crystalline's words. The galaxy is about to change. She was beginning to understand just how profound that change might be. But not everyone was comfortable with the pace of that change. The descent began small, questions raised in scientific conferences, concerns expressed in government meetings. Some argued that humanity was moving too fast, that they risked provoking the Velrath into action they could not counter. We should be grateful for what the Velrath have given us, one prominent physicist argued in a widely shared broadcast. We should follow their guidance, learn at the pace they recommend. There is no need to rush into a galaxy we do not understand. Others disagreed vehemently. The Velrath treat us like children, a counter-broadcast argued. They give us toys and expect us to play quietly while they run the universe. We are not children. We are humanity. We have never accepted limits imposed by others, and we should not start now. The debate raged across Earth and in the growing human settlements on Luna and Mars. Some called for caution, others called for acceleration. And in the middle of it all, the work continued. Elena returned to space, commanding a new vessel called Endeavour. This ship was faster than Hope, its drive systems incorporating principles from both the Kethrani data crystal and human innovations that had emerged in the months since first contact. Her mission was diplomatic, to establish relationships with other species in the galactic community, to learn about the complex web of alliances and rivalries that the Velrath had carefully kept hidden from humanity. What she found surprised her. The galaxy was not the harmonious community the Velrath had described. It was a place of competing interests, old grudges, and simmering conflicts held in check only by the Velrath's overwhelming power. Species that had been part of the community for thousands of years still harbored resentment toward their ancient mentors. Others had been waiting for an opportunity to challenge Velrath dominance. You understand what you represent. A being called the Watcher told her during a clandestine meeting on a station at the edge of explored space. The Watcher was old, impossibly old, a member of a species that had been part of the community since before the Velrath themselves achieved dominance. I'm beginning to, Elena replied. The Velrath are not evil. They genuinely believe they are guiding the galaxy toward a better future. But their vision of that future is one where they remain in control, where progress happens at their pace, where change is managed and moderated, and humanity doesn't fit into that vision. Humanity destroys that vision. You are proof that their model is not the only way. That species can advance faster, can innovate more radically, can reshape themselves and their technology in ways the Velrath never anticipated. The Watcher paused, its ancient eyes studying Elena's face. Some species will fear you for this. Others will hate you, but many, many more will see in you the hope of something different, something better, a galaxy where the pace of progress is not decided by a single ancient species, no matter how wise they may be. "What do you want from us?" Elena asked. "I want nothing. I am too old for wanting. But I will give you a gift, as the Kethrani did. Not technology this time, but information." The Watcher produced a small device that looked almost biological, like a living thing rather than a machine. "This contains everything I know about the Velrath, their history, their technology, their weaknesses, and most importantly, the location of their home world, which they have kept secret from the galactic community for millions of years." Elena took the device carefully. "Why would you give this to us? If the Velrath found out, the Velrath will not find out. And even if they did, what could they do to me? I have lived for longer than their entire civilization has existed. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species evolve, stagnate, and go extinct." The Watcher made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I give this to you because I want to see what happens next. For the first time in millions of years, I cannot predict the future. Humanity has introduced a variable that changes all calculations. It is, if I am honest, the most excited I have been in quite some time." Elena returned to Earth with the Watcher's gift and a growing understanding of the situation humanity faced. They were not simply a new species joining a community of equals. They were a disruption, a catalyst, a force that could reshape the galaxy itself. The question was, how would they choose to use that power? The answer came faster than anyone expected. 3 months after Elena's return, the Prometheus project achieved its breakthrough. A team of engineers working with principles derived from the Watcher's gift and innovations that were purely human in origin successfully opened the stable wormhole to a point in space, 2 million light-years away. The wormhole remained open for only 37 seconds. But in those 37 seconds, humanity had accomplished something no other species in the known universe had ever achieved. They had found a way out of the cage. The news spread across human space like wildfire. Some celebrated, others worried, and somewhere, in the depths of Velrath territory, Commander Thyrol received a report that made her scales turn pale with something that might have been fear. "They have done what?" she asked. "Intergalactic transit, Commander. Instantaneous. They opened a doorway to another galaxy." Thyrol stared at the report for a long time. 23 months since first contact, and humanity had not just exceeded Velrath technology. They had done something the Velrath themselves had tried and failed to achieve for millions of years. "Send a message to the High Council," she said finally. "Emergency session. Tell them." She paused, trying to find words for what she was feeling. "Tell them the universe has changed, and we need to decide how we're going to change with it." The Velrath High Council had not gathered in emergency session for over 10,000 years. The last time had been during the Kethrani expansion, when it seemed that the crystalline species might challenge Velrath dominance. That crisis had been resolved through careful diplomacy and even more careful manipulation. The Kethrani had been convinced to accept their place in the hierarchy, and peace had been maintained. But this was different. This was not a species that could be convinced to accept its place. This was a species that did not seem to understand that places existed at all. Commander Thyrol stood before the assembled council, her scales rigid with the effort of controlling her emotions. Around her sat the oldest and most powerful beings in the galaxy, representatives of a civilization that had guided galactic affairs for millions of years. "You have all seen the reports," Thyrol began. "I will not repeat the technical details. What matters is this. Humanity has achieved intergalactic transit. They have done in less than 2 standard years what we have been attempting for longer than most species have existed." The eldest council member, the same white-scale being who had approved Thyrol's recommendation for equal partnership, spoke first. "We knew humans were capable of rapid advancement. That is why we offered them partnership so quickly. With respect, Elder, we did not know this. We did not even conceive of this. Our most optimistic projections gave humanity 500 years to achieve what they have accomplished in 2. Our models were not merely wrong, they were catastrophically wrong. Then our models must be updated, another council member said. We must learn from this error and adjust our approach. The question, Thyrell said carefully, is what approach we should take now. Humanity has demonstrated capabilities that we cannot match. They have established relationships with species across the galaxy, relationships we did not authorize and do not control, and they have shown no interest in following our guidance or accepting our leadership. You are suggesting they pose a threat. I am suggesting that the galaxy we have known for millions of years is ending. A new era is beginning, and we must decide what role we wish to play in it. The Council debated for 6 standard cycles. Arguments were made for containment, for confrontation, for continued partnership, for withdrawal. Some Council members advocated for extreme measures, the use of ancient weapons that had not been deployed since the earliest days of Velrath dominance. Others argued for surrender, for accepting that humanity was simply better and stepping aside. In the end, they reached a consensus that satisfied no one but offended everyone equally. The Velrath would approach humanity with an offer of true alliance, not the managed partnership they had offered before, but a genuine joining of equals. They would share their most advanced technologies, their deepest secrets, their greatest achievements, and in exchange they would ask humanity for one thing: access to the intergalactic transit technology. It is a risk, the eldest council member acknowledged. If they refuse, we will have revealed the depth of our interest without gaining anything in return. But if they accept, we will have secured our place in whatever new order emerges. And if they use the technology against us? Another council member asked. The eldest made a gesture that conveyed something between resignation and acceptance. Then we will have learned something important about them, and we will respond accordingly. Thyrell was dispatched to deliver the offer. She travelled to Earth aboard the most advanced Velrath vessel ever constructed, carrying with her the accumulated knowledge of millions of years of civilization. Dr. Sarah Chen was waiting when she arrived. "Commander Thyrell," Dr. Chen said as they met in the same desert location where first contact had occurred. "It's been almost 2 years since we last met. A great deal has changed."
"Indeed it has," Thyrell agreed. "You have surprised us, Dr.
Chen, repeatedly and profoundly. We have surprised ourselves, to be honest. Sometimes I wake up and cannot quite believe what we have accomplished. And yet you continue to accomplish more. The intergalactic transit, that is what brings me here today." Dr. Chen nodded slowly. "I expected as much. The Velrath have been trying to achieve stable wormhole technology for a very long time. We found records in the data provided by a mutual friend." Thyrell's scales shifted slightly. She knew about the Watcher, knew that humans had received information from sources outside Velrath control. There was little point in pretending otherwise. "Yes. It has been a goal of our civilization since before we achieved dominance in this galaxy. We have come close many times, but stable intergalactic transit has always eluded us. And now you want to know how we did it. We want to propose an alliance, a true alliance, not the managed relationship we offered before. We will share everything with you, our most advanced technologies, our deepest scientific knowledge, our understanding of the universe itself. In exchange, we ask that you share the transit technology with us." Dr. Chen was silent for a long moment. Behind her, human military vehicles were arrayed in the same defensive formation they had used during first contact. But the atmosphere was different now. There was no nervousness, no uncertainty. The humans knew their position had changed. "I will need to discuss this with my government," Dr. Chen finally said, "and with our allies, your allies, the Kethrani. The others you have contacted. You know about all of them. We know about some of them. We suspect there are others we do not know about." Dr. Chen smiled that smile again, the one Thyrell had learned to recognize as something other than warmth. It was the smile of someone who held cards they were not ready to show. "We will consider your offer, Commander. It is generous, and we appreciate the spirit in which it is made. But I should warn you, humanity has changed a great deal since we last met. We are no longer a species looking for a place in the galaxy. We are becoming something else entirely. And what is that? We don't know yet. That's what makes it exciting. The negotiations that followed were unlike anything in galactic history. Humanity did not simply accept or reject the Velrath offer. They counter-offered. They demanded not just technology but autonomy, not just knowledge but recognition of humanity's status as an equal partner in shaping the galaxy's future. And to the shock of almost everyone involved, the Velrath agreed. The agreement, called the Sol Compact, established a framework for cooperation between humanity and the Velrath Dominion. But it was not a framework in which the Velrath held the upper hand. For the first time in millions of years, the ancient civilization had agreed to a partnership where they did not control the terms. Commander Thyrol signed the agreement on behalf of the Velrath. As she did, she found herself looking at the human signatories, trying to understand the species that had upended everything her civilization believed about the universe. "You truly do not understand what you have accomplished, do you?" she asked Dr. Corland. Chen, after the ceremony. "We understand exactly what we have accomplished," Dr. Chen replied. "We have proven that the universe is not fixed, that progress is not limited, that the future is not determined by those who came before, but by those who dare to imagine something different. The Velrath have guided the galaxy for millions of years. We have prevented wars, ended conflicts, raised species from barbarism to civilization. We have done great good." "Yes. And you have also limited growth. You have decided for every species what they could achieve and when they could achieve it. You have created a galaxy where the pace of progress is determined by a single civilization, no matter how wise that civilization may be." Thyrol considered this. She had spent her entire life believing that the Velrath way was the right way, the only way. Now she was not so certain. "What will humanity do with the power you have gained?" she asked. "We will explore. We will innovate. We will make mistakes and learn from them. We will do what humanity has always done. We will reach for the impossible and refuse to stop until we grasp it." Dr. Chen paused, looking up at the stars that were becoming visible in the darkening sky. "And we will invite everyone else to join us, not as students, not as children being guided by their elders, but as partners, as equals, as species who together can accomplish things none of us could accomplish alone. Even the Velrath, especially the Velrath. Your civilization has knowledge and experience that we cannot hope to match. We may learn faster, but you have learned longer. Together, we could achieve things that neither of us could achieve separately." Pyrrole felt something shift inside her, something that had been rigid for longer than she could remember. It might have been hope, it might have been fear, it might have been both. "This is not how things have ever been done," she said. "No," Dr. Chen agreed. "It isn't. That's the point." 5 years after first contact, the galaxy was transformed. Human ships traveled to distant stars, establishing colonies, forming alliances, building infrastructure that connected species who had never been connected before. The intergalactic transit technology had been shared, not just with the Velrath, but with any species willing to participate in the new order humanity was creating. Some called it the human expansion. Others called it the Great Awakening. The Velrath called it the end of guidance. Captain Elena Rodriguez commanded the first human vessel to travel to another galaxy. The ship was called Unity, and its crew included members of a dozen different species, all working together toward goals that none of them could fully imagine. "Final checks complete," her pilot reported. "We are ready for transit." Elena looked around the bridge at her crew. Human, Velrath, Kethrani, and others whose names she was still learning to pronounce. They had come together because they believed in something new, something that had never been tried in all the history of the universe. "Engage transit," she ordered. The stars blurred, twisted, and reformed. When they cleared, a new galaxy hung before them, billions of stars arranged in patterns no human eye had ever seen. "Transit complete," the pilot reported. "We are in the Andromeda Galaxy." Elena felt tears forming in her eyes. 27 years ago, she had been a child looking up at the stars, dreaming of reaching them. Now she had not just reached them. She had exceeded them. She had gone farther than any human had ever gone, and she had done it surrounded by friends from species she had not known existed 5 years ago. "Begin exploration protocols," she said. "Let's see what's out there." Back on Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the transmission of Unity's arrival in Andromeda. She was older now, her hair fully grey, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. "They did it," she said to no one in particular. "They actually did it." Commander Thyrol stood beside her. The Velrath had changed in the years since the Sol Compact. They were no longer the aloof guides of the galaxy. They were partners, colleagues, friends. Some had found the transition difficult. Others, like Thyrol, had embraced it. "I remember when I first observed your world," Thyrol said. "I looked at your chemical rockets and thought you were primitive. I looked at your conflicts and thought you were divided. I looked at your ambitions and thought you were naive. And now I think we were the naive ones. We believed we understood the universe because we had explored most of it. We did not understand that exploration is not the same as understanding. We had mapped the stars, but we had stopped wondering what else might be possible." Dr. Chen nodded slowly. "Humanity has always been good at wondering. Sometimes I think it's the only thing we're really good at." "It is more than enough," Thyrol said. "It is, I am beginning to believe, the most important thing any species can be good at." They watched together as Unity began its exploration of a new galaxy. Around them, the world continued to change in ways that neither of them could have predicted 5 years ago. Humanity had looked at the stars and refused to accept limits. They had taken technology meant to last centuries and mastered it in months. They had reversed the flow of knowledge, teaching their teachers, guiding their guides, and now they were spreading across the universe, not as conquerors, but as pioneers, not as students, but as partners, not as followers, but as leaders of a new era in galactic history. The Velrath had thought they were introducing humanity to the galaxy. They had not understood that humanity was introducing the galaxy to something else entirely, the terrifying, wonderful, impossible force of human ambition. First voice crystalline of the Kethrani, the crystalline being's features shifted into something that might have been satisfaction. "I told Captain Rodriguez that the galaxy was about to change," Crystalline said to the other Kethrani gathered around. "I did not imagine how much. The humans are spreading faster than we predicted," another Kethrani observed. "They are establishing connections we never anticipated. They are sharing technology we never expected them to share. Yes, they are doing exactly what humans do. They are refusing to accept limits. They are refusing to follow rules. They are refusing to be what others expect them to be." Crystalline's features shifted again, this time into something that definitely was a smile. "It is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." The Watcher, ancient beyond measure, observed from a distance that could not be calculated in light years. The being had lived through the rise and fall of civilizations beyond counting. It had seen species evolve, stagnate, and disappear. It had watched empires that spanned galaxies crumble to dust, and now it was watching something new. "They do not understand what they are becoming," the Watcher said to the emptiness around it. "They think they are simply exploring, simply expanding, simply doing what humans have always done." The Watcher paused, considering. "But they are wrong. They are becoming something new, something that has never existed in all the history of the universe. A species that does not accept limits, a species that improves faster than it learns, a species that shares rather than hoards, that cooperates rather than dominates." The ancient being made a sound that might have been a laugh. "They are becoming the teachers of the teachers, the guides of the guides, the ones who will lead the universe into whatever comes next." The Watcher settled back to observe, knowing that for the first time in countless eons, the future was genuinely uncertain, and that uncertainty was the most wonderful gift humanity could have given. On a planet in a galaxy 2 million light-years from Earth, Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on soil that had never felt a human footstep before. Above her, unfamiliar stars wheeled in unfamiliar patterns. Around her, crew members of a dozen species were taking readings, collecting samples, marveling at the simple fact of being there.
Captain, Doctor!
Yamamoto called out, his voice carrying across the alien landscape. You need to see this. Elena walked to where Yamamoto was standing, looking down at something embedded in the rock at his feet. It was a structure, clearly artificial, clearly ancient, and clearly not made by any species known to the galactic community. There were others here, Elena said quietly, before any of us. Before the Velrath. Before the Watcher, someone else reached for the stars. The question is, Yamamoto said, what happened to them? Elena looked up at the alien sky, thinking about all the mysteries still waiting to be solved. The universe was bigger than she had ever imagined, filled with wonders and dangers that humanity was only beginning to discover. But that was fine. That was more than fine. That was exactly what humans had been waiting for all along. We'll find out, she said. We always do. She turned and walked back toward Unity, ready to report their discovery to Earth. Behind her, the ancient structure waited, a reminder that even in a universe transformed by human ambition, there were still secrets to uncover, there were still stars to reach, there were still impossibilities to achieve. And humanity was just getting started.